Morning, everybody. It is 8:21 a.m., April 10th. Welcome to my channel. How's everybody doing? Crazy day in the markets yesterday. Your boy's got a new heart now. I had an ablation procedure done yesterday. Hopefully, knocked my AFib out, and apparently had some kind of flutter that was fixed as well. Hopefully, now that's in the past. So that's awesome. And what did we have yesterday in the markets? Wow. In the hospital bed, I was like, oh, the market's not doing much. And then I saw the 90-day pause and tariffs. Oh boy, that market ripped. That was a crazy rip. One of the largest moves ever. Pretty nuts, right? But now we're giving some of it back this morning. We have CPI coming out in about 8 minutes. Okay, sounds like I have like a little bit of a sore throat. That's from the breathing tube that was down my throat yesterday. I have a little bit of a sore throat. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That's how I look at markets. Okay, hope that I can share that and impart that analysis with you. Okay. Also use market internals, which shows me strength or weakness under the hood of the markets. Okay. And then, as always, hopefully you guys can join me every day. Subscribe and set an alert to my channel. And of course, as always, if you enjoy my content, please smash that like button. That would mean a lot to me. All right. All right. I think we can get right into the watch list here. See what's moving markets today. And I'll bring you right to the news when it happens. Okay. VIX is up 10.56%. It's at a 37.17. Gold is up 2%. Silver's up 1.38%. 30-year bonds are up 0.46%. Bitcoin looks like it's down 0.87%. The dollar is down 1.13%. The Dow is down 1.43%. 10-year yields down 1.6%. ES down 1.90%. Nasdaq down 2.31%. Crude's down 2.58%. Ether's down 2.67%. And Russell's down 3%. Okay. Let's look over to the Mag 7 Plus. All right. Looks like Berkshire Hathaway is leading the pack, but it's still down 0.66%. We'll go to the 3%ers. AMD down 3.51%. Apple down 3.54%. Tesla is down 3.75%. Coinbase down 3.76%. Nvidia down 3.92%. Broadcom down 4.10%. Let's look at sectors. All right, so leaders here, Staples. Staples is down only 0.08%. So it looks like a risk off market right now before CPI. Healthcare down 0.48. Utilities down 0.51. Real estate down 0.66. All right, and 2%ers. Energy down 2.06. Discretionary down 2.27. Technology down 2.83. And semis are the laggard today, down 3.52. All right, let's go to the economic calendar today. Now we have CPI today in 4 minutes. You can see the countdown right here. All right, so looking at core inflation, headline number expecting 3. So we're expecting to go down 0.1 as 3.1 last time. All right. I'm sorry, that's core inflation. Expecting 3, got 3.1. Now headline expecting 2.6, previously 2.8. So we're expecting it to go down. Okay, initial jobless claims expecting 223. Okay, then we have Fed Logan speaking right at the market open. Fed Goolsbee speaking at 12 p.m. Okay, so we have this right here, and we will follow this price action and when it drops. Curious of how this will move markets, with the markets being up so much yesterday. Okay, now if this is hotter than expected, maybe we get some cuts. Don't know. Curious how the market's going to handle this. All you can do is do what the market does, follow what the market does. That's really all you can do. So we got about 2 minutes. Might as well look at the daily charts real quick. Look at that monster. That is such a big move. God, that's a big move. All the way up. Went right past the anchored VWAP of last year, which is at 542.35. So you closed above and inside last month's range. That's where you closed. However, we're right at 533 right now. We're all the way down here, back under that last year's anchor VWAP. Okay, let's look at futures just to see what we're doing. You can see right up in futures, right up to last month's lows, and we're giving back some of this. Not at the 50% at all, but right here. All right, look at the Qs. Monster move, right? But where did it go? Right to last year's anchor VWAP. Right to the tick, pretty much closed right there. Okay, we're at 454 right now. 454. Right there. That's where we're at right now. Let's look at futures. You can see we hit the 20-day simple moving average, and we're in between the 20-day and the 9 EMA on the daily in futures. Okay, got a minute to this drops. Why don't we really quickly look at the triple-headed monster? That would be your 10-year yield. And that 10-year yield has been really unbelievable lately. Big rocket back up. Smacked right into this year's anchored VWAP. Pulled back, and now you're getting a little bit of a move here. This should move definitely at 30 seconds. Let's go to that dollar. That dollar is going down right now. Look at that. Very interesting. Remember, this next reading should move markets. We got a VIX of 37.4 all the way up to 60. We're at 37.4 right now. Okay. Got 10 seconds to the news drops. I'm going to switch you over to my hourly chart here of the ES. And let's just see what price does when this news drops. All right, news just came out. Let's see what this market does. Just waiting for the numbers to roll in here. So far, not much is happening here. All right, so let's go to the right now. That good morning, Chief. Let's look at what we got going here. Core inflation year over year. Expected 3, actually better than expected 2.8. Okay, 2.8. Now, as far as the headline inflation, consensus 2.6, we got 2.4. So big beats in both of those numbers. Okay, initial jobless claims came in as expected. So very interesting here. The inflation went lower. I'm trying to think because remember, crude took a big dive. I don't think that's in the numbers yet. So that should probably even go lower, being that crude is so low in the coming months. I think there's a 3 month lag. So see what I'm curious what happens with this right now, right? Inflation's going down. So let's see really quickly. Let's go back to our daily charts. Let's go back to that 10-year yield. Let's see what that's doing. It's down almost 2%. All right, let's look at the dollar. That dollar's still falling right at a key support level. And your VIX is at 35.7. And the market's not really doing much here. You're just in this consolidation right here. Now, this right here is the tariff. After the tariff news, and I had an anchor view up here, and this is well above it. So everybody who sold the tariff news is underwater with this big move. I mean, the tariff was under here, so now I put an anchor view up on this recent low. Okay, we're above the month-to-date anchor view up, so that is the month of April. All sellers are underwater right now. Okay, and this blue one, anchor view up here, is from all-time highs. Okay, so this market hasn't really, it's just kind of in this little range. I don't think it knows what to do. Okay, now what I'm going to look at now is, let's see the Fed watch tool. All right, so for the next FOMC, what are we looking at? We have an 84.5% chance of just nothing. Okay, 15% chance of a cut. So still looking like we're just going to not do anything. The following looks like we're probably going to get a cut of a quarter point basis, quarter point cut. Following in the next FOMC, that would be in June. But as far as right now, we're at 84.5%. I know you can see, let's see, compare. Aha, that's pretty cool. So we went from, this was a day ago. It's pretty cool. We were at 79 and we just went up to 84.52 of a pause. All right, now look at that. A month ago we were pricing in almost a cut, 47%, and we just been going down. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like this. I'll compare. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's look at the next month. All right, so pretty much it's not as significant as this, right? Pretty crazy. That cut was baked in almost, and now it's not. So that's the Fed watch tool. Now, like I said, with that big move yesterday, it's kind of hard to gauge, right? You gave a little back, which is expected. So, and this FOMC, I'm sorry, this inflation numbers that came in very better than expected. So, very interesting, right? All right, I think we're gonna move on here. Oh, we can move on to some news. I'm sorry. Let's do some more news here. We'll go over some breath stuff too. Might as well do that. All right, let's look at some news. All right, so this morning, Constellation Brand stock fell 2.7% after the brewer, which makes Corona beer, forecast fiscal 2026 profit below expectations, expecting steep levies imposed by the Trump administration to hit its beers and spirits business. Tesla stock slid 3.7% and Nvidia dropped 3.2% as the most mega cap growth stocks slid in pre-market trade after recording stellar gains in the last session. Apple stock fell 3.1%, handing back some of the previous session's 15% gains. Reuters reported the tech giant has flown around 1.5 million iPhones from India to the United States in recent weeks as part of an aggressive move to sidestep the impact of steep U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports. Intel stock fell 4.1% after Reuters reported the Lip Bhutan, the man chosen to lead the U.S. largest chipmaker, has invested in hundreds of Chinese tech firms, including at least 8 with links to the People's Liberation Army. CarMax stock fell 7.2% after the used vehicle retailer reported fourth quarter earnings below expectations, prompting selling after this stock had gained over 11% during the last 12 months. United States Steel stock fell 10% after President Trump said he did not want to see steel producer go to Japan, implying he does not support Nippon Steel bid. UBS stock fell 1.7% despite the Swiss lender reaffirming its intention to repurchase shares to the tune of $3 billion in 2025. General Motors stock fell 3% after UBS downgraded its stance on the auto giant to neutral from buy, citing the impacts of tariffs on the company's cost structure. Newsmax stock fell 5.5%, adding to the previous session's 11% loss after the Delaware judge ruled that the conservative news outlet published defamatory and false statements accusing Dominion voting systems of rigging the 2020 election. All right, let's move on to some more news. This market's starting to take a little turn. Let's see that. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on this. We're still in a range, so nothing really to see here. Let's go back to the news. All right. All right, so that's the juice here. Got some red, a lot of red here. It says traders boost bets on a full percentage point of Fed policy rate cuts by year end. Okay. And that's really it. Let's go to more news. It says Trump's tariffs pause focuses trade war on China, markets bounce. U.S. President Donald Trump sudden decision to pause most of the hefty duties he had just imposed on dozens of countries brought relief to the battered global markets and anxious European leaders, even as he ratcheted up a trade war with China. Exclusive Chinese sellers on Amazon to hike prices or exit U.S. as tariffs soar. Chinese companies that sell products on Amazon are preparing to hike prices for the U.S. or quit that market due to President Donald Trump's unprecedented tariff hikes. Sellers and the head of China's largest e-commerce association said. U.S. consumer prices seemed mild in March before tariff tsunami. U.S. consumer prices likely increased marginally in March, but inflation risks are tilted to the upside after President Donald Trump doubled down on tariffs on imported Chinese goods, easing heavy lower duties on other nations. We talked about the Apple airlifting to iPhones. It says Trump's escalating tariffs threaten to reverse U.S. import boom. U.S. container imports rose 11% year over year in March, continuing this year's outsized monthly gains. But U.S. President Donald Trump escalating tariffs are dimming the outlook for the year. Later this year, trade executives said. Let's look at the dollar. Let's see here. Separately, investors will focus on U.S. consumer prices data along with weekly jobless claims report later in the day. Traders will also focus on Fed official speeches for further clues on policy outlook. Moreover, the dollar dipped against safe haven currencies, pushing yen and Swiss franc back towards multi-month peaks. In commodities, gold prices extend the gains while oil tumbled on fears of the deepening U.S.-China trade war and a possible recession. All right. Let's see here, just a couple prices here. Carnival Corp. Morgan Stanley cuts target price 21 to 25, highlighting risk related to macro outlook. Microsoft Corp. Wedbush cuts target price to 475 from 550. All right. Now the market's starting to push down, and we're gonna get to that. Okay. Let's look at some breadth. Let's look at some breadth charts. We'll start here with my gauge of the breadth. All right. So this is your S&P 500 percentage of stocks over the 20-day simple moving average. We are still, even with yesterday's move, only 19% of stocks above the 20-day simple moving average. We were all the way, check that out, at one point almost 2%. What's crazy is we're all the way up to 63, 64%, like days back. Quite a drop and then quite a move up, but this is still generally very bearish, right? Also tend to get reversals when you're this low. Okay, 20-day simple moving average is a more, I'm trying to think of the word, quicker moving average to judge by, right? It's not the 50, it's not the 20. All right, let's look at breadth. All right, now let's look at the new high, new lows. I'm going to switch this to a 5 year as well. It was at a negative 1,000 the other day. Let's go to 5 years here. So you can see that real negative reading here with the leading lows put in. That moved up pretty significantly to 744. All right, let's look at the bullish percent index. All right, of the S&P 500. Let's see. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. All right, so this is very bearish. This was pretty much April 2nd, April 7th. Sorry. We got down to this bullish percent index basically tells you on point and figure charts how many stocks percentage wise are on buy signals. That is very low. I mean, look at these numbers here. This is a very, very low reading and due for a bounce here, right? When you ever get to these readings, you're usually due for some type of bounce. You're pretty much oversold. You just don't know the timing of when the market will reverse. Okay. And now let's look at the AI sentiment. All right. Ooh. Let's look at the bulls first. This is just a sentiment survey. So only 21% of the investors are bullish. Okay. And who are bearish, 61% are bearish. This is back up to readings that are very, very not good for the market, right? 61% of investors are bearish. You can see another extreme level up here. That was September of 2022. Okay, so that is not the best number, right? Okay, that's our breadth. Just giving you the breadth readings, okay? Moving on to our main event. Main event coming up right at you. We're going to go right into that market profile and volume profile. We're still in that range. Okay. Give me one sec here. Let me just pull that up. All right, here we go. All right. So you can see we're pushing the bottom of this overnight session here. And we'll look at some levels. We'll look at what happened yesterday just real quickly. All right, so the market's kind of trading in a range. Which, like I said, when I was in the hospital, my procedure was done pretty early, so I was able to just to see what the markets were doing. They weren't doing much. Opened here, and they were just kind of ranging, and then that news came out, and boom, single prints, right? Single prints all the way up to here, pushed up, consolidated, pushed up again, closed right up here, 54.83. Okay, so price is right here right now. Okay, so that's what happened yesterday. Now, as always, when you have a big move like that, first thing you want to mark off is the 50% retracement of that move. That would be 52.50.25. That's the midpoint of yesterday, right there. You have single prints. Okay, single prints represent emotional buying in this case. Okay, you can see the very thin volume here. Okay, now in a weak market, you're gonna rip right. You could rip right through those, and that's not much support there. Okay, so who are we talking about now? We're talking about the elephant on the toothpick. Can a toothpick hold up an elephant? Generally, it can't. But if it can, that is bullish. All right. If it can't, it should rip through these single prints. That is yet to be seen. Okay. Now, we also have month-to-date VWAP here, 5304. Month-to-date VWAP. Okay, that actually it's green. That means buyers are now in control of the month. That's pretty crazy with that big move. Okay. You could see the breakout level pretty much around this 53, let's call it 5300 level, right above the midpoint. So this breakout level right here. Okay. Midpoint 5250, breakout point around 5300. Lines up with the month to date VWAP. Okay. We have a confluence high 5520 to 55, let's call it 30, 5528. You have previous supply, you have a previous gap up here. Okay. So this high is a confluence high. That is, you need to see if you break this high, we could basically fill that gap, go back up possibly to the most traded price of the month, which would be 58.73. Okay. So we're going to mark this off. And there is a supply zone, a couple of them here. Okay. This is the most traded price of yesterday. My voice is amazing right now. Sorry. Let me try to clear that. All right, so this is the most traded price today. Actually, it's very interesting. It's the most traded price of yesterday and the most traded price of the overnight, 5,400. Okay, we are underneath that. So in the short term, that is bearish. So if the most trades happened here, which I would guess they were longs yesterday, we're below that. Okay, so that's a little bear bull line that you want to keep in mind here. Most trades happened here of the overnight and yesterday were there. Acceptance under that level can really threaten these single prints. Okay. Now, you have to think about this psychologically, right? Let's say everybody yesterday who was still long took that big burst and took off their risk. So you have to think about that. Who was hurting and was like, you know what? That's a big rally. I'm getting out. I feel like the market's going to go down. Possibly that could happen psychologically, right? We just have to see. We don't know that yet. Okay. So midpoint of the overnight session, 55444, lines up with supply. Okay. Now remember, we have our single prints, goes all the way down to last week's lows. Okay. That's 50.88. Happens to be the most traded price of the week at 5100. So we have levels, and like I said, right now, 5400 is a mini bull bear line for yesterday and the overnight. So farther you move away from this, you're gonna have some longs puke and liquidate, and then it's gonna be up to the breakout point, the month-to-day VWAP, and the single prints. Okay. Now that we have our key levels out, okay, we have key levels laid out. Just want to see if there's anything else I'm missing. And now also this profile, right? Let's talk about the inventory real quick. This is the midpoint, that's 50%. We're about 75% net short. Okay. And like I said, you're accepting price below this. I would expect lower prices here. You're hanging out here. Like I said, majority of buyers overnight and this morning are going the longer you accept price below this, that should move lower. That doesn't mean it's bearish. It just means that's usually what happens. All right, so why don't we get into scenarios? We're going to go right into it. Now, if you're looking at structure, of course, most trader price of the week down here 5100. We're well above that now, right? Most trader price of the month's way up here. Okay, and we broke out of this level. Can we continue? Okay, we don't know. Is this a buyback, a pullback to buy? I don't know. Okay, so let's get right into the bull case. All right, so remember the first area that I talked about was this breakout level month-to-day VWAP and single prints. Okay, so if the market does come down here, you're going to want to see what it does. Is this the pullback to buy? Don't know. But if we pull back in here and you have single prints, right? Remember what I talked about? I talked about Elfie, right? That elephant on the toothpick. Now, a toothpick should not hold up an elephant. However, if it does, we go into these single prints and we can't move farther and it's supportive and we do higher low, we should work our way back into this range. Do I think we break out here? I don't know. But that 55.20 level, boom, if you take out those supplies, you can fill that gap and possibly go up to the most traded price of the month, which is 56.73. Okay? Another move that could happen. You could just get bought up here, pull back, hold that 5400 and move higher. Any deeper into these single prints, I would not be a fan coming back into this range. Okay? Move on to some bearish scenarios here. Okay? So, got our levels marked out. All right? Now, we have supply here, overhead. We have a gap that's unfilled. We have our confluence high, that's our 55.20 to 28. We have our 50% retracement at 53, I'm sorry, that's 5250. Okay, we have a breakout level, 5300. So, most traded price of the week, 5100. So, that's all our key levels. Now, 5400 is very key. Okay, that's the mini bull bear line. So, in a bearish case, let's say we do this and we could try to go above it and we fail. I think this is where you really challenge the breakout level and month-to-date VWAP. If you take out this 50% retracement and the market's weak, you could really go right back to 5100, and that is very bearish. Okay, if you take out 5100, you're going to challenge yesterday's lows and possibly go down again. Okay, that's one. Second, you can push back up into this supply, try to fill the gap, fail, and maybe we just hang out here. I don't think you do that and go all the way down. You might get a move to here and push back up. Okay? But these single prints are very, very susceptible. Bring up the Elfie, right? If that toothpick cannot hold up an elephant, this big box of single prints, which is from here to here, gets cleaned right out. Because who's going to put support here? Where's the support? There isn't any. Okay? That is your ES. That is your ES. All right? Let's go to the NASDAQ. being a pain in the butt right now. For some reason, this is froze on me. Yeah, here we go. Give me a second. Apologize for that. That usually generally doesn't happen. I know you guys can see the price. I just can't control anything right now, which is annoying. Just give me one sec. If I can't get control back, which I believe I will. There we go. It's now starting to. What a pain in the butt. All right. Let's talk about this NASDAQ. All right. Price right here, 188. All right. You have very, very key levels here in the NASDAQ. Okay. You have a confluence high here, 193. Let's call it 193.90 to 193.04. I'm sorry, 193.88 to 193. Let's call it 193.88. Okay. Now, why is this level significant? It's not just a confluence high. Okay. Overnight high and the RTH high from yesterday. It's also the most traded price of the rolling year. That's that orange box. The most traded price of the rolling year. Okay, let's look if we can see that over here. Let me give you the NASDAQ on a daily. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Notice right here, that pink, that's that most traded price of the year. You can see this big level here. Okay. That's where we're at. So just wanted to show you the significance of that level. Okay. Of that level. So now we're back here. Okay. Now, let's mark off the 50% of yesterday. 182.92 right here. Lines up, month-to-day VWAP. Okay. We also have single prints as well. Emotional buying from yesterday. These are your single prints right here. Okay. So kind of similar because your most traded price of the week's all the way down here. That's around 175.17. Okay. Your most traded price of the month is around 190. Let me see here. 198.50. Okay. Now, let's see the most traded price was yesterday. That was actually down here in that session in the NASDAQ. It didn't move up in the session like the ES did. Okay. And you don't have the most traded price down here like the ES did. So a little different. A little different. Okay. You are about 80% net short in the overnight. All right. So, like I said here, let's talk about elephant on the toothpick here. This is your toothpick. Okay. This is your elephant. Can it hold it? Right? In a weak market, that will not hold. That will get ripped. Okay. So, let's single prints again. All right. Let's go into this here. Let's just get right into the scenarios here. Okay. Let's put a little range right here. All right. Let's do this. Apologize for my voice and apologize for the delay in my chart, but we're going to get into it now. All right. So let's move into it. We have, okay, our bullish case. Okay. our bullish case. Now we do have a POC here. That's the most time spent in the overnight. It's 189.27. So we'll just put a little line here. Okay, so what if we, right, push down, hold, hold, wait your hot. I don't think this is going to be easy. Okay, this is a huge level to get through. You really need to work and then find acceptance above it, and maybe you hit the most traded price of the month. I don't think market this is very hard to get through, but if it does, it can move big very if as long as it accepts value above here, it can move. But this level's so big. Remember, it's the most traded price of the rolling year. So I don't know. I don't know. Right? Now, if you do get some type of pullback and what happens, you hit month to day view up, you hit these single prints and you get support, that is bullish. And then I think maybe you go back here. Okay? You go back here. And that's really all I'm looking at for bull side. Now, if we're talking about the bear side, right? Definitely got this confluence high here, that 193.84, most traded price of the rolling gear up here, supply. You got a lot of stuff up here that market has to rip through. Okay, so if we push back up into this supply, into this huge level, and let's say we get a little bull trap, boom, can't find acceptance, come back under it, start holding, take out the overnight low. Now we have thin volume and the single prints come right down to month to day VWAP. If we start and get weak, this can get cleaned right up. You go back to the most share price of the week. Now, this 183.57, okay, lines right up with the breakout point here. So that before, like I said, if we come back into here, that could be a buy point. Or if you take it out, this could really make longs liquidate their positions. Okay, and you could look at like 174 as a destination. If you take out yesterday's lows, boy, do you challenge the lows of the year? Don't know. It's really a crapshoot. This market is nuts. So that is my analysis for today. Okay. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and you got something out of it. Even though my voice is cracking, my charts are freezing. All right. So please smash that like button if you did enjoy that. Okay. Hopefully you did. And you can join me every morning. I give you the lowdown, the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leaders and the laggards, and of course the long and short trade scenarios that I just gave you. Also, I gave you daily chart analysis. Okay. So this is what's going on in the market. It's nuts. We're at a 37 VIX. Who knows what's going to happen? We're in this little range right now, and let's see what happens. Let's really see what happens. Okay. We have a plan. Like I said, lately with this volatility, I'm leaning on the SPX, 0 DTE. I'm going to do a lot of different spreads on there. I might dabble with really just playing and maybe on an hourly chart or something in the future. I'm trying to just trying to see, but it's so hard because it's so volatile. Also, I've been looking at equities, day trading equities again. I used to day trade equities more and just find the spots where you want to get in and get out. But I have to see. You have to adapt to every market environment, and this environment is definitely crazy. Okay? All right. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see everybody tomorrow.